Forgiving someone who's wronged you has to be one of the most difficult things in life. But forgiving someone doesn't mean we're condoning what they did. It doesn't justify the wrongdoing, but it does set us free. It was 1984. I had just put my swimming costume in the laundry when my mum called me and my 4 siblings into her room. She was sitting on the edge of the bed. Dad was standing in the doorway, shuffling awkwardly. "Your father has something to tell you," Mum said, looking down at the carpet. Us kids stood in an odd little circle around the room, gawking at each other, anxious to finish our holiday unpacking and get to our favourite TV shows. Dad cleared his throat. Then he said, "I don't love your mother anymore. I'm going to marry someone else." There was an awkward silence. My heart froze like a still from a movie that other people were watching. I looked at my big sister. "Is this a joke?" It wasn't. I remember running into the garage, choking and gasping. In the end, my dad went on to marry another woman, and then another. He was on his 4th marriage when he died suddenly of a heart attack several years ago. It was in my 20s when I felt God ask me to forgive my dad. It wasn't easy. I'd be searching the stores for Father's Day gifts with no idea what to buy, looking for Father's Day cards that read like a bad cliche. It was hard listening to my dad talk about his new girlfriends and then his wives. It was difficult always being open and soft and refusing to take revenge by withdrawing my love. My dad never did say sorry for having an affair or leaving his children. As an adult now, I understand that relationships break down for different reasons, but there was still a lot of wrong that was done. Jesus taught us the importance of forgiveness. But how do we forgive when the person who's hurt us doesn't acknowledge their crime? People sometimes confuse forgiveness with condonement. They think forgiveness is letting the perpetrator off the hook. But forgiveness never absolves the person from what they've done. It never condones that abuse, that lie or betrayal. It never justifies the hurt or the pain. Forgiveness is our choice, not the perpetrator's. It's our response to someone else's bad behaviour. While we can't control the decisions of others, each one of us is responsible to God for our own. And whether justice is served or not, forgiveness is about trusting God ultimately to right the wrongs. A pastor was in a counselling session with one of his parishioners. She was expressing hurt about someone who had wronged her in the congregation. As she recounted her story, she cried bitterly. This woman had been so unfairly treated, and the pastor felt her intense pain. "Well, when did this happen?" he asked, with deep sympathy. The woman looked up. It was about 25 years ago now. The inability to forgive has its consequences. As we carry the wound, it continues to fester inside of us to toxic effect, even as the way of freedom is before us. Why keep paying the price for someone else's crime in your own life over and over again? Instead, we can take that wound to God, make a decision to forgive just as we've been forgiven. It may not even need to be expressed to the perpetrator, but the fruit of our forgiveness will bring life and freedom. Looking back on my own journey with my dad, forgiveness gave me so much more than I could have ever imagined. I didn't need him to say sorry anymore because forgiveness set me free. When I attended my dad's funeral, there was no regret or bitterness. I stood at the graveside, thanking God for the good times and letting the rest go. As I did, I was able to understand more of who my dad was and some of the reasons behind his story. Forgiveness gave me understanding. It set me free from the wounds of my parents' divorce. And most of all, it taught me a little more about the love of God. Thanks for tuning in today to Everyday God Conversations. For more on having your own God conversations about forgiveness and other topics, go to godconversations.com.